Hey everyone, this is Mr. Mott. What I'd like to do is go through the project that we're going to ask you to do after you guys get done figuring out how to test an unknown water sample for pH. Before you get into how you're testing your water samples, I'd like you to give me some background on pH, why we're testing it, and what are some situations where pH might be important testing. We've gone over some of this in class, but you can feel free to do more research on your own. Although we're going to be using chemical indicators in our lab, I'd like you to do some research on the other methods that we could possibly use and maybe some advantages and disadvantages of each method. Now that you've explained why we're using chemical indicators instead of the other processes, what I'd like you to do is give me a brief procedure about how you created your pH reference chart. Next, what I'd like you to do is explain the process of how you use your pH reference chart. And as you'll see in the next slide, what I'd like you to do is have a procedure of a few different steps about how you would possibly use your pH reference chart. You can be as general or specific as you can, but it should be something that someone who hasn't done this lab should be able to follow and replicate your steps. Along with your problem-solving process, we'd like you to explain how you use pH standard solutions to verify the pH of your water sample. As you test a water sample, you should take a picture after each indicator that you've added to your unknown solution, and then also you can include a picture of your pH reference chart, or at least part of it, showing the pH range and how you determined the pH range of your sample based upon the pH indicator chart. This is a totally made up sample that I'm going to try to use to help illustrate the process of determining your pH of your sample and narrowing it down. So here's my sample, and I chose a real indicator called methyl red, and let's say it turned this color here red, and my indicator chart told me that it was the pH range was pH 4 to 10. Based on my first indicator, methyl red, we narrowed down the pH between 4 and 10. So therefore I chose another indicator, metacresol purple, that will hopefully narrow down the range. And you should try to explain why you would choose that particular indicator. In my made-up sample, we see our color was about purple, and according to my pH indicator chart, that was between 6 and 12. Again, these are all made-up numbers. Now, what I would want to look for is the area where they overlap, and from my first two samples, they overlap between pHs 6 and 10. Because I know that my water sample is somewhere now between 6 and 10, I chose methyl orange. And methyl orange would be another indicator that would maybe have some color differences between 6 and 10. So according to my made-up indicator chart and my made-up data here, I've narrowed down my pH to be between 7 and 8. The last step that I would do is I would test my sample using methyl orange with pH 7 and pH 8. And so those are known pH standard solutions, and I want to see what colors they turn between pH 7 and pH 8, and then I want to match my sample to one of those two. Now it's possible that my sample might be sort of in between those colors. If that's the case, then I would say my pH, I've narrowed it down to be between 7 and 8, but I can't say specifically which one it is. If it matched 7, I would say then my pH of my sample is 7. If it matched 8, I would say my pH of my sample is 8.